I am not most of those things anymore. If Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, would like me to care, she's going to need to do something. On the 8 episodes of her Netflix show, would you like to know how many crudité plates she made? She made 4 crudité plates. On 8 episodes of television, 4 times she was like, I'm going to show people how to cut something up and then put it on a plate. I do not need an approachable lifestyle doyen. That is not the job of a person with a lifestyle show. No one wants like an S&M dom who is a bottom. Like, I do not need her to be boiling the pasta in with the sauce. I need someone I am scared of. I need someone who is making choices I would never think of. Every fucking episode, Martha Stewart was saying galangal, and you didn't know what that was. And you were like, oh yeah, she knows something. Like, Meghan Markle pretended on her show, pretended to have her own bees. She does not have her own bees. Martha Stewart had her own bees. And you're like, Guy, how could you say with certainty that Martha Stewart had her own bees? Because you could see the fear in the bees. Martha Stewart always had a twist, always had an angle, was always doing something more than you would ever do. One time, she baked a wedding cake with Julia Child, and Julia Child said, that seems like a lot. And you're like, but Guy, you love Ina Garten, and Ina Garten is never throwing bergamot into anything. She's never doing some sort of weird twist on a lemon bar. Yeah, that's because she's doing a lemon bar right. And then the other thing I was going to say on this subject is, if you at any point in time were like, well, Guy is questioning the validity of there being a black lifestyle doyen the way that the royal family questioned the validity of there being a black royal duchess, I would say to you, fuck you for not remembering B. Smith, who had a syndicated show in the 1990s and who made sushi with collard greens with Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis. She fucking killed it. No one here does remember B. Smith by design. It was a hell of a show. What was your name again? One, I'm sorry that Moses climbed on you. One, when you were a child and your parents assumed that you were gay, were you at that point in time also wearing a shawl? This is what? It's a new development. I think it's very fun. The other day, I saw a go-go boy wearing a shawl. It is very exciting. So, a couple of months ago, when the current president became our president, I was like, haha, playing Jenga with American government is all well and good until planes start falling out of the sky, which seemed like a fun joke. Until like 40 minutes later, when it actually happened. And our current political situation is very scary, but I do think Republicans have gotten bad at their job, because their job is to come up with a wedge issue that is supposed to scare ladies in Arizona so much that they have to run, and they're so scared of gay marriage or abortion or whatever that they vote for whoever the Republicans want to be governor. And the most recent wedge issues that they've been picking is like, they're trying to ban drag in states like, Wisconsin and Tennessee. And I don't think they should have picked a wedge issue that is gonna make ACLU fundraisers way cooler for the next 20 years. Because when you think about what was an ACLU fundraiser 3 years ago, 2 dudes talking about net neutrality. Now it's a person with their genitals tucked up inside of their body, surrounded by go-go boys, pretending to be Kylie Minogue. Please, take all of my money. But I do think we need to acknowledge that these attempts to ban drag in states like Wisconsin and Tennessee do disproportionately affect America's worst drag queens. Because, if you ban drag in California or New York, Bob the drag queen just goes on a world tour and makes $1 million. But if you ban drag in Wisconsin, that means Madison Dairyland has to go back to cutting meat at the Sam's Club. The other wedge issue that Republicans have really been sticking to is trying to deny trans children the medication that they need. And I just want to make clear to everyone in this room that if you continue to deny trans children the medication that they need, those trans children will continue to beat your daughters at swim meets. And you're like, but Guy, it's not fair. It's not fair. They're trans. They're too good at swimming. They are trying to take the pills that will make them bad at swimming. And you won't let them. When a man expresses too bold of an opinion about the question of trans women in competitive athletics, my question is always, when did you start caring about women's collegiate swimming? Because if you have like a bumper sticker on the back of your Subaru Outback that says University of Tennessee Lady Volunteers Aquatics, take your time. Read some articles, listen to some podcasts, you find the right answer for you. But if you only have an opinion about this because you managed to stick around for the 4th hour of a Joe Rogan podcast, I maybe don't care. And you know, the question is always, these guys who are so worried about trans women in sports, like what are they really scared of? And I think that ultimately they are scared that women's sports might get good. And you're like, Guy, that's horrifying. How can you say that? The WNBA is amazing, blah, 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 fundamentals. And I would just say, well, if it's so wonderful now, imagine how much better it could be with a few more balls on that court. No, like, this question does actually, I know that I should not be talking about this. For the last 10 years, every male comedian and every cisgendered comedian has decided that they have to have an opinion about trans people, and I'm not helping by saying this. But I do think it's so funny that, like, Gavin Newsom just had his little podcast where he decided that his big move towards the center so that he could run for president is that he is going to not like trans ladies who try to run or jump. And he was like, yeah, there was just a trans girl at a meet, and she beat the next closest girl by 8 feet, and everyone's like, this is horrifying. And it's like, yeah, that was a jump that would not have placed at the national finals. Like, she's just from a shitty county. Like, I don't think that they are scared that trans women are going to come along and beat all the ladies. I think that they're scared that they're going to have to watch 20 ladies with fully working uteruses knock the hell out of some person with possibly a dick and balls. But also, should we be spending our times worrying about the shape of high schoolers' genitals? Yeah, I really wish you guys would have laughed at that instead of responding to me as though this were the ACLU fundraiser that I mentioned earlier. I've always been fat. It came to me effortlessly, like a calling. And some people will say to me, usually doctors, they will say, hey, Guy, have you ever considered losing the weight? And you know, no one ever goes up to Barbra Streisand and says, have you considered being bad at singing? And you're probably like, but Guy, being good at singing does not significantly increase your likelihood of dying. You tell that to Amy Winehouse. You tell that to Aaliyah. You tell that to Dwayne Allman, I think. You tell that to Kurt Cobain if you consider that to be good singing. When gay guys don't want to date fat guys, like when I first started, like when the apps first came out, like 10 years ago, gay guys would just say no fats, no femmes, no Asians. They just put it out there, they were very direct. But now we live in a softer and more gentle time, and so they have to sort of like code these things. They need to veil them. And so what they will say now is, I spend a lot of time keeping healthy, so I'm looking for somebody who prioritizes his health. I'm looking for someone who keeps healthy. And I think that that is a fundamentally reductive conception of what it means to be healthy. Because what do they mean? What they mean is they want a regular gay guy. They want a gay guy with like broad shoulders and a narrow waist who like works out but can't do anything with it. And like, if you take that regular Colton, that regular gay guy, sure, he may have lower blood pressure than me. Sure, he may be able to beat me in a foot race. But you could hit me with a hammer as hard as you wanted to for 90 seconds and I'd be fine. Like, I might lose an eye or something, but I'm walking out of there, probably going to work the next day. But little Colton, he would just be in a pile on the ground. Hello, what's your name?
Alex.
Alex, and when did you start stand-up comedy?
I don't do stand-up.
You don't do stand-up comedy? Then, so why are your feet on the fucking stage? I was gonna make that so much more dramatic, Alex, but then you just took the note. But if you would like to put your feet up on the stage, I would encourage you to start doing open mics, you know? Maybe somebody will take notice of you, you'll get representation, and then you could go crazy. Put your feet back up. But no one else! Alice, what is your name?
Me?
Yes.
Chris.
Chris, if your legs could reach, I would let you. I would just be impressed.
I do stand up.
They can't. The most annoying thing about being very fat is when you have to fly on an airplane. And several years ago, I was flying on an airplane, and the lady who sat down next to me got very upset that she was having to sit next to a fat person. Our arms were kind of touching on the armrest. And so she refused to buckle her seatbelt, and she wouldn't look at me, but she looked over at the stewardess, and she brought the flight attendant over, and she refused to buckle her seatbelt, so the plane couldn't take off. And I was like, lady, you're being magically transported through the sky across a continent. There are going to be some minor inconveniences. You might have to take your shoes off. You might have to touch a fat person. People died of dysentery on the Oregon Trail to travel half that distance, and you are being magically transported across a continent in the course of 2 romantic comedies. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about what a person would have had to go through to take that flight 500 years ago. They would have had to sign their name in the devil's book. They would have had to find an unbaptized baby, render down its fat, and rub it all over their naked flesh so that they could frolic with their sister wives of Satan in the sky in the moonlight. This lady just had to have a credit card and go to a website. Now that joke did not do as well as I wanted it to. It never does, and I worry that it is because not enough people in the audience are as familiar as I would like with Wiccan flying spells. I did think that I was at a queer comedy show in front of an audience of mostly women, but apparently you ladies don't care about your religion. I imagine that one day I will perform that joke in front of the correct audience, probably at a feminist bookstore somewhere. And then the audience will rise up as one to applaud and laud me and take me up in their sturdy, tattooed arms and carry me around triumphantly until they eventually ritualistically murder me because I am, at the end of the day, still a man and the enemy. Now is my final joke. Thank you. It's weird that there's the moon. We only really have the 2 major celestial objects, and it's weird that one of them is just for vibes. Because think about it, what does the sun do? The sun, it makes it warm outside. The sun, it makes the crops grow. The sun, it makes solar cars work. And the sun, if there's a wolf there, the sun shows it to you, and then you can run away. And the moon is like, I'm just gonna set a mood. And tell people when to menstruate. Thank you very much and good evening. I'm Guy Branum.